This is Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo.
On May 25th, 1979, Ridley Scott's Alien was unleashed, striking fear into the crew of the Nostromo and filmgoers around the planet. The film opened on exactly the second anniversary of the release of Star Wars. Each one of these two films heralded a new era for filmmaking. Star Wars set the tone for epic, fantastic blockbusters, while Alien did the same for contained, tight-knit, realistic thrillers. Alien was progressive and bold, like its iconic female hero. In the words of writer Dan O'Bannon himself, this is a movie about alien interspecies rape. It attacked audiences with disturbing images of male rape, which were also a metaphor for the evil company's crimes against humanity. Let's walk through what you might have missed about this 1979 classic and what makes it orbit so high above the rest. Beware, this video will contain spoilers. Alien's story of a crew struggling to survive a violent alien aboard their spaceship is a hybrid of science fiction and horror genres. Alien's science fiction aspects are evident in the grand opening visuals and in scientific details like the special nature of the alien's corrosive blood. Beginning as science fiction, the movie is hijacked by horror. A horror film is meant to provoke the physiological response of fear, and Alien delivers this in spades through its lurking eponymous monster. Or, more accurately, the series of life forms which eventually lead to the creature: the egg, the facehugger, and chestburster. Writer Dan O'Bannon described the concept as a scary movie on a spaceship, while director Ridley Scott saw it as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre of science fiction.
It was a horror movie that is set in space. So if you were going to say what are the top greatest horror movies ever made, clearly Rosemary's Baby is one of them. The Exorcist would be another. Jaws, you could maybe make that into a horror film if you wanted to, or Psycho, you could put those in that category. But certainly The Shining, certainly Alien, these are movies that are really interesting takes incorporating that genre.
While it wasn't the first ever, we might credit Alien with popularizing its form of genre hybrid, space horror. Not only did it spawn 3 sequels and an ongoing prequel series, but it also inspired, or influenced, countless films beyond its own universe, all of which draw from both science fiction and horror. The famous tagline, "In space, no one can hear you scream," encapsulates the film's genre mixing. The words also come true literally when the alien first attacks Kane, and we immediately cut to the sound of wind and a wide open shot of space, visualizing the disconnect between personal trauma and the indifference of outer space. Just like the story, the visuals and sound begin as science fiction, only to be subtly and dramatically subverted by horror aesthetics. The elegant opening sequence of the spacecraft is grandiose and polished, but also cold and lifeless, setting the tone for the inhumanity and lack of compassion we'll later witness. Early serene interior views make us think of the visual world of 2001. We even see examples of Kubrick's famous one-point perspective, where all points in a frame lead to a single point. The exteriors of the ship, too, might make us think of an epic like Star Wars. We're given a feeling of circularity in the camera motion and in the design of the ship's interiors. The womb-like circles hint at intricate patterns, mystery, and the grandiose nature of exploring outer space. It's only after the discovery of the alien that the horror aesthetic begins to take over. Expressive, stylized lighting signals the fear and danger. Darkness becomes the defining feature of Alien. Based on Swiss artist H.R. Giger's biomechanical designs, the 8-foot-tall alien would already be the stuff of nightmares. But just as in 1975's Jaws, the most frightening aspect of the creature is how little we get to see it. The visuals capture our visceral fear of the unknown. We don't even know what the alien will look like. Each iteration takes a new form when we finally do get time to dwell on its appearance. Still, its looks are less scary than its ability to blend into the pipes, ducts, and bowels of the ship. We can't know for sure that any of the shapes surrounding Ripley won't suddenly become it. The film also plays with point of view, with literal first-person shots, or by more loosely suggesting perspective. We see and hear through the endangered crew member, who becomes the on-screen surrogate of the viewer. In one memorable sequence, The film even places us in the point of view of the cat. Meanwhile, we see the alien slightly before the character does, as the alien appears behind them in frame. The effect places us in the anxious position of knowing what's to come without being able to warn the person in danger. Another key visual touchstone is realism. The design of the ship feels weathered and believably imperfect. The actors too, as Roger Ebert notes, look older than the usual action thriller cast, making them more convincing as human beings. And the realism is reflected in the variety of camera choices to mirror each emotion at hand. The opening offers some smooth, serene camera movements and beautifully composed wides. But scattered in with this feeling is a static camera that tells us these crew members are bored, cooped up.
Such a sense of claustrophobia inside that ship, with all those close-ups of them as they're working the controls of the ship. And so when they get down on the planet, even though you're inside that suit, you were just like, at least there's space around them. There's like room to just stretch your arms.
In moments of threat and peril, the camera gets shaky and unsteady, sometimes only subtly, to make us feel subconscious unease. Long, slow-paced sequences mirror the crew's discovery in real time, slowly building up suspense and frustration. The camera also isn't concerned about rushing to be on the person who's speaking at a given moment, and this casual delay also adds an aspect of documentary.
What would you like me to do?
Just what you've been doing, Ash. Nothing. I've got access to Mother now, and I'll get my own answers, thank you.
Throughout, the variable camera projects the reality of each moment, and the truth that these divergent moods all coexist together. Sometimes life is transcendental, sometimes it's just a job, and sometimes it's life or death. The film's use of shapes also combines both beauty and horror. The images of repeating patterns make us think of organic beings. The alien nest even appears beautiful on first discovery, but the organic repetitions are made sinister. Here, the phallic shape next to the skeleton suggests a gun and forebodes violence. The dark and beautiful score alternates between sci-fi serenity and screeching horror string sounds. Meanwhile, the film relies on natural sounds, but these natural sounds too can become expressive and horror-like, as when we hear a magnified heartbeat. The film also resorts to complete silence, which allows us to project our emotions of the moment. One of the deepest sources of horror in Alien is its psychosexual overtones. In the vast majority of representations, rape is portrayed as a gendered crime, with women being the assumed victims. But Alien makes the victim male. Before it matures, the creature is both vagina-like and phallic. It attacks Kane by latching onto his face and forcing itself down his throat, which O'Bannon calls a metaphor for the male fear of penetration and payback for the horror cliché of vulnerable women being attacked by male monsters. The creature then bursts out of Kane's chest, a violent and disturbing version of birth. After it matures, the alien attacks with its phallic inner jaw in a thrusting motion. Yet again, a combination of sex and death. Of his choice to kill male characters in a metaphorically sexual manner, using a creature that sometimes resembles the monstrous feminine, O'Bannon has said, "I'm going to attack the men. I am going to put in every image that I can think of to make the men in the audience cross their legs. Homosexual oral rape, birth, the thing lays its eggs down your throat." Significantly too, Alien avoids the cliché of killing off all non-white male characters first. The film also shows attempts of male-on-female violence, but with a different result. Later, Ash attacks Ripley with a rolled-up pornographic magazine, mirroring the manner of the facehugger. We can even see pictures of naked women in the background. As Ash is destroyed, sperm-like liquid shoots out of him, associating the company with a grotesque, sexually deviant attacker. In the final scene, Ripley is in a state of undress before the alien attacks her. Yet unlike the males, Ripley repels her attacker, subverting the innocent victim image of her plain white girlish panties to defeat the alien, at least for now. Alien established Ellen Ripley as one of the most iconic female characters in all of cinema.
I got you.
It catapulted Sigourney Weaver, then only known for a cameo in Annie Hall, 1977, to instant international stardom.
I love the fact that it has an opportunity for a really strong female lead. Nobody else could have played Ripley the way Sigourney Weaver played Ripley.
The role wasn't originally meant for a woman. O'Bannon and co-writer Ronald Shusett wrote all the characters as generic males, referring to them only by last name. Dallas, Kane, Ripley, Lambert, Ash, Parker, and Brent, before marking them as unisex in the working script. Scott then made a conscious decision to subvert expectations by casting Weaver as the action-ready hero. What makes Ripley iconic is, in part, what she isn't. She isn't a man, which makes her stand out from the male muscle-dominated sci-fi and action landscape, both before and after her. She isn't a damsel in distress, in need of rescuing, but she isn't an idealized female action hero either. She displays both strength and vulnerabilities. Visually, she's treated no differently from the males around her. Her face is most frequently cast in shadow, lending gravity to her dilemma. Her costume, makeup, or visual treatment in no way feminizes or glamorizes her, nor does the film's opening even indicate that she's our protagonist. She's presented as just one of the crew.
Get started on core panel. I'll be right down.
What the hell's she coming down here for?
You better stay the fuck out of my way.
Both story and cinematic technique treat her as simply a person who has to get her job done in the worst imaginable situation. Ripley is also iconic for what she is. She's authoritative, cool, and collected. In times of crisis, she makes decisions based on logic. Crucially, near the start, the first major moment when Ripley starts to feature prominently in the story, she displays the right instinct, not to allow her fellow crew members back aboard for fear of contamination.
Ripley, this is an order. You hear me?
Yes, I read you. The answer is negative.
These characteristics tend to be thought of as male, while Ripley also displays an emotional, nurturing side. Before escaping the ship, she makes a last-minute decision to go back and save the only other survivor, a cat. This side of Ripley is explored even more in Aliens. But her caring nature isn't presented as a female characteristic. What's key is not her gender, but her humanity, in contrast to both the alien and the company. Ripley's success opened the door for future female heroes. The very first dialogue in the film is a discussion of bonuses and workers' rights.
Before we dock, I think we ought to discuss the bonus situation.
Right.
Brett and I, we think we deserve full shares, right, baby?
You see, Mr.
To the crew members, this is a job.
If they find what they're looking for out there, that mean we get full shares?
Don't worry, Parker, yeah. You'll get whatever's coming to you.
Look, I'm not gonna do any more work. We get this straightened out.
You know, on both ends, like, you know, the sort of disrespect that we have for the worker, but then the worker really tries to undermine the efforts of the corporation, because both are exploiting each other as much as they can.
Unfortunately, by breaking quarantine, you risk everybody's life.
Maybe I should have left him outside. Maybe I've jeopardized the rest of us, but it was a risk I was willing to take.
It's a pretty big risk.
The company is represented on board by the cold betrayer Ash, who is, ironically and absurdly, revealed to be a robot under orders to bring back the alien for research at all costs. The faceless company, more than the brutal alien, is inhuman. The transmission, via the bland interface of the computer, enigmatically named Mother, but displaying no nurturing ability, reveals the plan to Ripley in succinct and emotionless words. The android Ash is a manifestation of the corporation's nature, an icy, rational machine with faux human appearance. His severed head mocks the crew, exposing the horror of a universe where human lives are expendable, secondary to corporate interests and technological advancement.
The idea that this alien, since it's worth so much money to them, they need to get it back. They need this thing. That human lives don't really matter if they get in the way of profit.
His admiring description of the alien is even more applicable to the corporation he stands for.
Its structural perfection is matched only by its hostility.
The ship's name, Nostromo, is a reference to Joseph Conrad's novel of the same name, also a story about a corrupt society under the shadow of a company. In Italian, Nostromo translates to shipmate, or could be expanded to Nostro Uomo, which means our man. The film emphasizes that concern for our fellow humans is our saving grace.
It's up there somewhere.
All right, go.
Cover it with a
Oh,
damn
wait a
thing, will
minute.
you?